Go baby, what's good guys? Yoku here, and I was not gonna do the tier list night one, but we're here. I'm live. We had the Yeshun Wong pools. The video may or may not be out by the time you're watching this video, and a couple other videos. But I have been on Twitter as of late. Now, some of y'all might have seen my Twitter. Okay, I'll put up the screenshots or whatever here. Some of you guys might have seen my Twitter. Some of you guys probably saw some of the clips and videos that I've been talking about. I've been going ham. All right, what have I been talking about? Miyabi. But I've also addressed Yeshun Wong and her just being a crazy powerful character, and a few other things that we've talked about over the course of the last few months. But point being is that Prydwen has dropped the tier list, and my chat, again, I was not gonna look at it. My chat has told me that it's not bad, but it's bad. So I don't really know what that means. Today we're gonna be looking at it. I gotta have the shock factor. Okay, I'm not even gonna bother looking at it and being like secret surprised. Okay, you guys are gonna see me look at this live. All right, y'all are gonna see me looking at this live. I'm going to swap on over to the screen. We're gonna go to the Zenless Zone Zero tier list, and I'm gonna go over. Why did my accent change like 50 times? All right, I already see. Uninstall the website, 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 uninstall the website. I called it. Now, before I go on my tangent, listen, I need to explain something really quick. In my guide, in the last like 2 videos that I put on the channel, and even in my tweets, right? If you've been in my Discord, you've heard me talk about this. I said it. I said Miyabi she's not worthy of dropping tier 0. We've had the whole eye watch list and everything like that. They just removed the eye. If you look at my last tier list video with Banwei, literally 12 days ago, they just updated the tier list with Banwei and removed the eyeball. And the thing that they said, which I again called it, but anyway, the thing that they said was that she's still doing great. She's awesome. We'll reassess it after 2.5. Now, what I'm getting at here is I said because it's Prydwen and they have massive recency bias, they are going to drop Miyabi. I expected it. I called it. I'm seeing it. My issue with this, as I've continued to say again on my Twitter, and I'll even bring up my Twitter just so you guys can see what it is that I was talking about here. Like y'all can see everything right here. Okay, all of the tweets that I've been talking about, all these people here. But we're gonna do that. I'm gonna open up Prydwen as well, just so we have both on the same page. Using a new browser, so I'm getting used to that. Now, the key thing to look at here would be obviously in this. Now, because they separated it, and again, the more I look at this, the worse it gets. We no longer have a stun category, which we kind of already knew that. And now we no longer have a sub DPS category, which I think was important to have, especially now with characters like Orphe, with characters like Seed, Yanagi, and even Miyabi, anomaly characters. This is going to, how do I put it? I think the stun and support combining was already like that was a bad thing to do, right? It reduced the amount of information that a player can learn or use to learn how to properly play the game. Now they have further reduced that to just crit-based DPS and anomaly-based DPS. We also see Miyabi being, is she anywhere else? She's nowhere else. Miyabi is now in the anomaly DPS category, 0.5. What is one of the key things that we talk about with Miyabi and why she essentially is broken, why she breaks the game? Miyabi is an anomaly character or an attack character disguised as an anomaly character. Miyabi also works as a crit DPS. The way that Miyabi is defeating the Thrall or Fiend, the Defiler, right? All of the things that she's not supposed to be able to defeat is by converting her build from anomaly based to crit. So saying that she's not both is a problem. Again, when it comes to the amount of information being given to the player, because this is, as I keep explaining, one of the key things about Zenless that is stopping or preventing players from looking or going beyond what they are, okay? There's a base level player. Do I need to bring up I don't even have the sheet anymore. I made a video a long time ago with like the colors and the bars, and like it was green, blue, yellow, orange, and red players, right? Something like that. And so green players are the casual player. They're focused on the story. They don't care about in-game, whatever. Then you have the blue players who are like maybe in the middle. Yellow players are learning. Orange players are aware and working on builds and shit like that. And then red players are like top tier, okay? So there's so many inconsistencies going on right now. The player trying to go from blue to yellow, the reason that they're not able to do that, the reason they're not able to, succeed past 20K, they're struggling to get 14K. They don't know how to do anything with their builds. It's not a lack of skill. It's not a lack of characters. I mean, skill would definitely help, but that's not really what it is. It is knowledge. And I've said this so many times. I've been talking about this for fucking months. The majority of players are lacking knowledge. Even on, as I was going on to explain with Twitter, right? Let me see if I can find it with Kaido. I was arguing with Kaido for like hours or something like that. And it's not even that Kaido is like a bad person or anything like that, right? It's just a matter of what they said. So as I'm talking about this on Twitter, right? And we're going over whatever, this is the tweet that I was talking about. All the information is right here for you guys to see, blah, 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 blah. Kaido says, bro, this is 2.5, not 1.5. Stop this shit of her, a tier of her own, actually play the game. So I'm like, all right, cool, bet. So then I go on and say, like, you know what, you guys know me, nigga, you play the game. So I pull up R2's videos, I pull up Yojimbo's, I pull up Zig's videos, anyone that I could find that has already done some stuff, right? And uploaded it to their video or their channel because that is what they do. So I'm showing this stuff, right? This is versus Wandering Hunter, something that Miyabi is not supposed to be able to take on. And then I think he mentioned like, oh, Hunter is Ice Week, so obviously she's gonna win. No, that's just not how that works at all. Especially when he's, what, isn't he like 50% anomaly resistant or some bullshit like that? Whatever. Anyway, mind you, this is mono ice, okay? So Kaku does nothing here except help Miyabi do more anomaly shit. And obviously the attack boost, but whatever. Anyway, 27K. Mind you, this score is above the average Deadly Assault score. The average Deadly Assault score is somewhere between 23,000 to 25,000 score-wise. So this Miyabi, something that she is not supposed to have a favorable matchup against, is beating above the average. I go over here, same thing, right? Another Wandering Hunter, 26K. I do it again, right over here with the Thrall, Mono Ice, something that is anti-anomaly. This is purely, no anomaly character is supposed to be boxing the Thrall. This is a 10-0 matchup, Thrall in Thrall's favor. Right? Here's Miyabi, almost 40K with mono ice. Again, something she's not supposed to do. And I see it again, 43K with an M1 Dailin and a Yuzuha, showing that by upgrading the team to something that's not fucking day one ice team, you can get even stronger. I bring all this up to then go on to talk about, like, again, more stuff about Miyabi and like why she's cracked out of her mind. If you want to see the original thread, like I said, it's on my Twitter, go look at it. I'm not going to go over everything in here because this video isn't specifically about my tweet. I'm going on to explain these things, right, with Kaido. And even here, after I send him even more evidence with R2, because he brought up like, do this shit with right, one of the other bosses. So I send him the same thing, like, yo, go look at it. Boom, here you go. Here's the evidence. And he's like, wow, that's pretty impressive. Like, I didn't think that was a thing, right? Because I'm showing you more evidence of something that is like, yo, you're just not talking about what you should be talking about right now. We go on and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. One of the key things is that Prydwen bases their tier list off of the quote unquote average player, the casual player who is not able to like be a top tier player. They're not mastering things. They don't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. But in Prydwen's case, they are doing things, where we at here? They took it away. They took it. Yo, kudos. Kudos. Good job. Kudos. It no longer says, right? Before, this used to say with no mistakes. It used to say with no mistakes. Now it just says using our standards for performance. Very good, very good. Look at the change log, it's new. Team has gone over a complete overhaul. About the tier list, this section outlines the general approach that the team took to the tier placement. Parts have been rewritten with standout changes being made. The tier list will continue to primarily focus on the character's ability to hit all rewards for in-game modes, but going forward, there will be partial weighting to potential for high-performing runs. It's important for Prydwen to prioritize the average player. However, it is not a fair assessment to evaluate an agent on their skill floor alone. Okay, I'm reading, this is good. To avoid unfairly judging characters whose ease of play may inflate or deflate their scores, future evaluations will also take into account how well one can perform. Skill ceilings will be more accepting of more advanced techniques. Assessment will retain a focus on casual player base, but there will now be an added consideration of skillful play as a factor in our evaluation. This is good. I like this. I like this. I like this. Okay. With that in mind, with going over everything that I said, it's now confirmed even more. They're still going for the casual, whatever player, right? Miyabi does not have the expert tag. Miyabi at an expert level, I would even be willing to accept that. Miyabi at an expert level could be placed in tier 0 based off of Prydwen's most recent updated criteria, roles about the tier list, all that kind of stuff. I could take that. Now, defending Miyabi, which mind you, I'm not disagreeing with anything else that's in tier 0 right now, but defending Miyabi, why did I bring up my tweet? Why is the entire thing about this so important? I'm going to go back to the original tweet here just to showcase that really quick. I'm just going to trace it. Actually, it's right there, isn't it? Yeah, here we go. The whole thing about Miyabi. Why is Miyabi what she is, right? Why does EO keep blazing Miyabi? Why does whatever, okay? If a character who is being targeted by the developers. We have all seen this. We've all recognized it. We've seen whatever's going on in creators' videos, communities, whatever. They are making anti-anomaly bosses. They have been making anti-anomaly bosses, but in particular, it wasn't just anti-anomaly. They were making anti-Miyabi bosses, okay? Hey, this boss can't be frozen, but it's Ice Week. This boss can't be frozen, but you can use anomaly. They were doing everything possible. Bro, hold on, we gotta ban this guy, because like, what are we doing here? Like, if you're gonna be racist, at least come up with some better shit. Like, don't be some of you motherfuckers are so lame, bro. You niggas are so lame, bro. Oh my gosh. Like, if I grew up black, obviously. If you're gonna be fucking racist, at least make it better. At least come up with some good fucking racism, bro. Don't be in here being weird with like the lamest fucking, you have some oh my god. We're talking about Zenless Zone Zero. This motherfucker's in here. How dare you be a black guy with a huge pee-pee? Fucking all the white girls. What? Anyway, keep that shit in the video. Anyway, all right, going back to what I was saying. We all know the developers have been targeting Miyabi, yet Miyabi still conquers. I showed you guys the images earlier with the tweets and the proof, the videos are there, of her still being able to beat, here's the important part, he's able to beat something that the developers have been developing to stop her. The thing that is supposed to counter Miyabi is still being beat by Miyabi. And this would be the craziest thing about this would be like if we were using different teams to make a point, right? If we were like, oh, Miyabi and Alice overcome the frost thing, right? Oh, anti-freeze, you can't be frozen. I'm just gonna play Miyabi and Alice, and like then it's really Alice doing the work, right? We're beating it with mono ice, the cheapest team in the game. The cheapest team in the game, the most free-to-play team accessible in the game with a limited character in mind, is beating content that was designed to counter Miyabi. Why I bring this up? Because as we went on and someone like Kaido was saying the same thing or something similar, where it's like, oh, well, other characters could also 3-star content that wasn't made for them. There's a difference between something or content not being made for the character, i.e. neutral content or neutral matchup, versus being an unfavorable matchup. It was designed to stop them, okay? What these other bosses are that are anti-Miyabi, they were designed to basically be 10-0 in the other boss's favor, right? 0 chance Miyabi wins. That is what they were going for, at least without Mindscapes. The fact that they're still doing that with M0, full-on team by the way, and smoking the boss above the average Deadly Assault score says a lot. So I go back over to Prydwen, I bring this up once again, because how does tier placements work? Even if you take into account that you're addressing something for the average player, the precedent needs to be stated, at least I feel that way, and I think a lot of others do too as well. The reason we keep saying Miyabi is tier 0 and quote unquote in a league of her own is because no other character in the entire roster of the game has dealt with what Miyabi has dealt with. No other character has been purposely and exclusively targeted to be stopped and then still come out on top of that. The only boss in the game that Miyabi struggles against without Mindscapes at all is Priest. Priest is something that is literally a 9-1 Priest favor, arguably a 10-0. Miyabi versus Priest is her only matchup that I have on record that she is not boxing. She cannot box Priest. That's the only matchup in the entire game that she can't deal with. So dropping her down to tier 0 or from tier 0 to tier 0.5 as just a DPS, not the best defense, okay? Even with Ye Xunguang coming out, I'll explain the Ye Xunguang stuff as well. Moving her into her own category of anomaly defense and then dropping her down to tier 0.5, Prydwen, you know I love y'all over there. I just gotta say it. This gotta be one of the dumbest fucking changes you could have made. Like if you would have just left it the way it was before with all of the main DPSs over here and then you dropped her to tier 0.5, arguably valid. Again, I'll explain why in just a minute. The fact that you moved her into her own category where she dominates is crazy. This is crazy to do. If you separated the categories, so crit DPS is one thing and then anomaly DPS are another thing, you might as well just slap her and Alice should be slapped in tier 0 because they're both doing the same thing at this point. That would have been more appropriate. Miyabi is the strongest anomaly DPS in the game, let alone anomaly agent in the game. There's absolutely no reason, even with the anti-anomaly shills happening in the game, especially with the new criteria or changelog that you mentioned right here, right? With the skill for it alone not being enough and it's not fair, which is valid. I agree with that, right? It's not fair. You have to take into account how does this character perform, not even a top tier level, but at a higher than average average player level. One of the things that I mentioned on Twitter that a lot of people agree with, and even if you don't agree with it, I just want to explain it because this is kind of like basic math or basic science, right? If I'm talking about the placements of something, a character, a card in Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon, whatever, right? A character in the game, anything that you can relate to sports, right? Take whatever analogy you want and relate it to what I'm talking about, okay? If I'm talking about tiers, what's good, what's not good at like a high level, whatever the case may be, I'm not going to base my opinions off the person or player who can't play the game. That makes zero fucking sense. I'm not gonna talk about basketball. I'm not gonna talk about football. I'm not gonna talk about Yu-Gi-Oh, the best decks performing in Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm not gonna base my opinions or tier placements on what Lil Timmy can't do, not because they don't have the skill to do it, but because they don't want to learn how to do it, right? They don't want to gain the skill how to do it. It's not that they physically can't do it, it's that they don't want to do it. I'm not gonna base those opinions, those placements off of somebody who can't do this thing when we see a multitude of proof, evidence, player base, whatever, of players who can do the thing, proving that X is possible. The issue here would be that if it was just one person, right? If only one person could do X, that's like highly uncommon. I would understand that, but that's not the case. Multiple players, which in this case would be X, are doing the thing. It's being proven. Every single patch is being proven that she can beat things that she's not supposed to be able to beat. It's foolish to say that, oh, well, she's being targeted and nerfed or whatever, so she can't be in that position. That's just not how that works. It's being shown. The evidence is being put on YouTube. It's being put on Bilibili. It's being put in Discords. It's being put on Twitter. Evidence is on the internet. Even in the game, the evidence is there with players being able to do that from their own Hoyo Lab data, right? And now we have the guild posts. The guild posts are going to start showing that too, with players doing shit they shouldn't be doing because they're supposed to be like anti-Miyabi, but she's doing it anyway. This is insane to just have her here in that spot. Yes, at this point, if somebody wanted to make the joke, Eo's crashing out about Miyabi, you could make that joke now. It's insane. Now, let me go on to explain why earlier I said if you left Miyabi inside of the main DPS category, you could drop her to tier 0.5. This would be understandable. This is also going to point out my recency bias that I talk about with Prydwen a lot, and I don't think they'll ever address it, but this is just, it's very obvious. Yeshun Wong being in tier 0 right now at the current point in the game on launch is totally valid. The developers had to make a character that was so strong, it was clear as day. They made her busted, that broken, if you will, right? Remove all the other clickbait titles and thumbnails we've ever done calling a character broken. Yeshun Wong is broken. This character mashes left click for free and she gets all the rewards. She has infinite iframes for free and she gets all of the rewards. She has the highest damage output in the game for free and she gets all of the rewards. Her best partner is free and she gets all of the rewards. You don't even need her W engine or her partner's W engine and she gets all of the rewards at still the highest performing level. They made this character so fucking stupid that she is the strongest DPS in the game by far. So with that in mind, the appropriate thing to do would be to put Yeshun Wong in her own tier, tier 0, move Ishwin and Miyabi to tier 0.5, and move everyone else down. And I know you have the capability of doing it. I know you're wise enough to do that. Why? Because you just did it for fucking Wuthering Waves. Lene came out in Wuthering Waves, guys, and everyone got bumped down. They bumped down the entire tier list just to put Lene in tier 0 to represent the fact that this bitch is broken. And of course, Yuno went up, right? Yuno went up because of Lene. Look at all of these arrows. Down, 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 down. I know you have the capability and sense to do it. I don't know why Zenless gets treated like that so much. It's like, oh, sometimes I think y'all do it to spite me. And I know I'm not that important, but it just feels that way. This is crazy. This is crazy to just be doing her best in, exactly, Lucifer. Yeshun Wong's best in slot team isn't even available yet. Like, she has a best in slot team currently, but it's not the best in slot team for her. So now what this looks like is that Ishwin and Yeshun Wong are on the same level. They perform the same, which is definitely not true at all. Yeshun Wong smokes the shit out of Ishwin. Ishwin cannot compare to Yeshun Wong, and Ishwin is already a strongest character. She's already busted. Ishwin is already a arguable top 3 DPS in the game. Yeshun Wong smokes that. If you had a top 3 and you said the top 3 before this, right? Let's say the top 3 before this was Miyabi, Yidhari, and Ishwin. Yeshun Wong takes the place of top 1, top 2, and top 3 by herself. That's how strong she is. And then everyone else gets bumped down. Yeshun Wong is so strong, she takes up all placements of top 5. Top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She's all top 5. Yeshun Wong. And then everyone else is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's how strong she is. I don't know why you guys treat Zenless like this. And it's crazier to me because Zenless, out of all the games, Obviously, this is my opinion. I know a lot of other people share this, but Zenless is one of the few games where skill expression absolutely matters. The ability to play the game, the knowledge to understand how characters perform, how teams perform, when you do what, rotation management, different routes, combos, building characters, all of that matters so much more in this game compared to all the other games. But somehow we keep diminishing that fact. It's like, and that's why I said I'm gonna have a video that comes out right before this too. It's like you keep dumbing down the player base. Why you always blame the players, EO? Why don't you blame the developers? Because the player is the one making the decisions. I have a video about that out as well, right? That explains like the entire thought process that I have. When you remove the need for a player to inform themselves and gain the knowledge to get better, it makes them worse. It makes them say really stupid shit on the internet. This is how you get into arguments. Miyabi's not tier 0. Miyabi's not even that strong. Actually, Banwei and Yidhari are stronger than Miyabi. Who told you this? Where did you get this information? Well, because all the DPSs right now suck, and Yidhari is catered, all the bosses, and Yidhari, and Yidhari. So let's break this down one more time. And maybe I need to go full screen. Maybe just for the dramatic effect. Just for the dramatic effect, okay? If a character is boxing their best matchup, 10-0, they were designed to beat this matchup, 10-0. Great character, awesome. That's what the f they're supposed to do. If a character is boxing their worst matchup and they're winning, they're not supposed to do that. Automatically, using logic, right? 6-7, haha. Using logic, automatically, that would tell you this character that is not supposed to be doing a thing, that's doing the thing, is better than what we are alluding her to be. Maybe we should reassess our thought process on that. Maybe we need to relook at why she's able to do that and then come back into the game or come back into the conversation and reevaluate what's going on. Is Yidhari a fucking fantastic character who currently in the game is boxing everything because it's rupture weak? Yes. Is Miyabi the same shit minus the rupture part, but she's boxing things that she's not supposed to do? Yes. One of them is clearly stronger than the other. Is Yidhari beating things that she's not supposed to? No. And the same thing could be said for Yi Xuan, which is why I keep saying those two characters aren't on the same level. Yi Xuan is neutral across the entire board with a few positive matchups if they're ether weak. He does not have any negative matchups, because I talked about this in the last video. Because of that fact, that is what places Yi Xuan, or one of the key things that places Yi Xuan in tier 0. Miyabi is above that simply because of the fact that she has neutral matchups. She has positive matchups. She breaks the game. She has her infinite cheat codes or whatever, which is like the freeze. She has all the things that make a great DPS a great DPS. She works with every single agent in the game, or 90% of all the agents in the game. And she beats things, her unfavorable matchups, that she's not supposed to beat. You are doing a disservice even if you left Miyabi in tier 0.5, because I know people are gonna hear what I'm saying and they're gonna, you're just mad because your favorite character got dropped, blah, blah, blah. Miyabi's not my favorite character. Let's just put that right there, right? My favorite character is still tier 0, or one of my favorite characters is still tier 0. The other character that's one of my favorites, like tier 1, okay? So let's just pause real quick for that before someone says that. The problem here is you're encouraging ignorance. I was gonna say stupidity, but that's not really the right word. You're encouraging people to be more ignorant. It's a difference between somebody that just wants to clear. And I wanna make that clear too. I'm not talking to you. If you're the type of player that you just care about clearing, so you want obviously the thing that's gonna help you clear the best, that's fine. I'm not addressing you. Most of the time when I'm having these conversations, I'm not talking about that type of player. So this should not be offensive to them at all. I don't care about the player that's like free to play, but struggling and just wants to easy clear. I'm not talking to the person that works 47 hours a day, comes home, wants to press one button and clear all of in-game and then like have fun. I'm not talking to you. That is not what I'm addressing at all. Any fucking time I'm talking about tier list, meta relevancy, power, strength, performance levels, should you pull, whatever, I am always coming from the perspective, or at least predominantly coming from the perspective of someone who gives a fuck about in-game, someone who gives a fuck about getting better at the game, who wants to learn more about the game and genuinely just cares about whatever's going on, which I think is completely valid. That's kind of all of that. I explained the Ye Xiong Wang thing and even talked about Yi Xuan. Beyond that point, the tier list is still wrong. Again, Prydwen, I don't want to be on the council. I don't, because I'll argue. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person that's always arguing for something to happen in the tier list, right? I don't like being the outlier in that scenario. But I really don't think you guys are like assessing things properly. And even with this, I do want to say, because I saw a couple comments from the Twitter thread that I had where people were saying that Prydwen uses things that are meta relevant. So they update based on the current meta of the game, which is totally fine. If that is the case, this entire tier list needs to change every 2 to 3 weeks. Every 2 to 3 weeks, this entire tier list needs to just jump up and down. Because if you're doing it based off the current meta, there's 2 factors, now 3, 2 factors that have to come into play. Shiyu defense, which normally, right? Normally Shiyu defense has completely different teams that they favor compared to Deadly Assault. Then you have Deadly Assault that fluctuates. Both of these fluctuate what, every 12 or 17 day, whatever the number is, it fluctuates that much. You would have to reposition the entire tier list all the time. Why does Evelyn still have an expert tag and she's in tier 0.5? Now, based off this tier list, if I'm reading a general tier list, this tells me that Evelyn at an expert level of play, this tells me that Banwei at an expert level of play is stronger than Miyabi, is the better pull than Miyabi, is the more developed character than Miyabi. That's not true at all. Expert tag definition changed, good call, let me look at that. Characters with this tag have an optimal playstyle and advanced technical requirements that must be mastered for them to be at their best. Skill and routing adjustments will always lead to significant discrepancies in score, but some agents are more demanding of these than others. Without the necessary skills, the characters may see a significant drop in performance, lowering their tier list ranking by 1 or multiple tiers. Okay, so now it's going down. No expert tag, you go down instead of going up. It's still wrong. This is still wrong to an absurd degree. Number 1, if we're gonna play the expert tag role, sure, Miyabi should have the expert tag role just like Ishwin. They should both be in tier 0. Despite that fact, even if you don't play Ishwin at a quote unquote optimal level, the is still tier 0. He does not need an expert tag. So there's that. Evelyn, even with an expert tag, and we can all kind of agree on this, especially the people who keep trying to tell me Yidhari better than Miyabi. If Yidhari is better than Miyabi, that means by default, Yidhari and Evelyn cannot be in the same category. They're not on the same power level, right? If I told you Vegeta was stronger than Piccolo, you don't expect to see Vegeta in tier 1 and Piccolo in tier 1, right? You expect to see Vegeta above Piccolo. So if Yidhari is stronger than Evelyn or Miyabi, Evelyn and Yidhari are not on the same level at all. Yidhari and Seed are not on the same level at all. Orphe is a fucking tier 0 character. Like, I don't know why she got dropped down or she's in whatever. Orphe is a tier 0 character in her own category. It is what it is. Yidhari versus Banwei. Yidhari is better than Banwei. Even at an expert level, she boxing that nigga just because of the fact that she does not have to play fighting game or Ninja Gaiden. I saw Zig's video earlier today. It was a really good video. She doesn't have to play Sifu to get the damage out. She's a hammer main from Monster Hunter. She just bonks people on the head and charges her hammer. Sanbi does need an expert tag. Playing Sanbi like you're Looney Tunes and playing Sanbi like you know what you're doing does give you that discrepancy difference to justify her being a tier above, right? Haramasa, all this stuff is fine, whatever the case may be, right? Tier 1 finally instead of tier 2 or 0.5. They got out of the 1.5, that's good. Soldier 11 now being in tier 1 with the potential 6, that's fine. Minato being up here as well, that's fine. Ellen being up here, that's fine as well. Hugo, same thing. But as I'm mentioning, I think this would have been received better if you just pulled a Lene, if you bumped everybody down, right? If you did something like that and then left Ye Shun Wong in her own tier, that would have been whatever it is. I don't know. Even the Bernice thing, potential 6 Bernice is on the same level as Vivian. Why doesn't Zhao have a partner tag? Which I guess, to be fair, she probably doesn't need one, but Zhao's not replacing anybody's best in slot or even secondary best in slot. Nicole doesn't need an expert tag in tier 0.5. You could literally play her super basic and she'd be up there. I don't know, man. This is Zhao equals Astra. Nah, I think if you're looking at just stats, yes, but if you're looking at in terms of what she does for the team and how she does it, she is not an Astra. She's a decent side grade to players who don't have Astra, but now you also need to think about this. Which teams are you using that would have Astra that you can now slot in Zhao? Because like in an electric team, right, you get more value out of Arena than you would like electric anomaly, I mean, or even with Haramasa, you get more value out of Arena than you would a Zhao. So you wouldn't use Zhao in that scenario. In an actual anomaly team, you're really not using a defense character, so that kind of knocks that out, right? You have all the other agents that you could build a team off of with anomaly, so it wouldn't work for you in that case. Are we looking at crit DPS now that aren't Ye Shun Wong, Ishwin, and Zhao? You're not doing that. I guess, but now are you using that over Astra? Probably not. Are you using that over Nicole? Maybe. But then what does Zhao do for you? Nothing, because Ishwin doesn't have the same Etherville properties that the other characters have. Like, she doesn't have an entry skill, so there's really no benefit you get from that except the HP, I guess, to convert into sheer force. But at that point, you already have your Panda built, potentially, or even a Lucia. Sanbi and Zhao, you're not doing that. Bonway, you're not doing that. Evelyn, you're not doing that. Seed, you're not doing that. Unless you have Ye Guang, right? So it's like Zhao, to some extent, does need a partner tag or an explanation at the very least. But this character isn't, she's not that, especially on her own. It's just, it's a lot. Even the Piper thing. Now Piper, was that always there? Piper having a partner tag with Vivian? I've never paid attention to that. But Piper's not fucking tied to Vivian at all. That doesn't make sense. Nagi, Bernice, even Grace, Alice, Miyabi, even Sokaku. Piper works with all the other anomaly agents in the game. That's what makes her like the budget Jane, sometimes better option than Jane, because she doesn't need as much work. This is rough. I'm not gonna lie to y'all guys. Like this is a rough look for me personally. In my head, I'm honestly trying to understand why these changes would be made. I've read the change logs. I've read the different like about criteria. I'm seeing why these things are happening. It just doesn't make full sense, right? I don't need to read why Ye Guang is tier 0. That makes sense. Zhao, tier 0.5. Despite being a free agent and a defender to boot, Zhao is surprisingly strong. She has a decent buff lineup. True. Can slide in most attacker and anomaly teams. Kind of true, but like it's true, but would you do it over the other options that you have? Probably not. Like Zhao slotting into the other teams is, if you only have Zhao, this is what you use. But if you have the other options, which isn't even their best in slot options, you're not using Zhao. She's relatively easy to do well with. Yeah, because you don't play the character. Goes back into what I said, right? Anything that's in like the support category, tier 0.5 and above, most of those characters in tier 0.5 play themselves. That's why they're there. A sizable portion of her power budget is in her signature W engine, and this has to be acknowledged, but with the full package, she is the very least with the other tier 0.5 agents. Not to mention she'll be a mainstay in Ye Guang's team, further inflating her performance. Agreed. Why doesn't she have a partner tag for Ye Guang? Upgrades, Ellen, Soldier 11, Ben and Ambi, that's because they got rid of the tiers, doesn't matter. Downgrades, don't care. Nagi going from 0.5 tier 1. Unagi as the carry in an anomaly team has struggled to perform up to par with limited lineups in which she can deal with. Her polarity disorder and general team flexibility held up her scores, but this is often a result of her being held up by her partner rather than being a significant value add. To be clear, she is still a decent character and arguably deserves a place in a hypothetical tier 0.75, but has fallen behind to a tier 1 placement. I would accept a 0.75 placement, but same thing, right? We go back to the tier list. Why did you get rid of the sub DPS category? A big factor too, not just anomaly characters, but now with Orphe and Seed, right? Sub DPS is a thing. Sub DPS is absolutely valid. Prydwen, why did you guys get rid of it? Again, you're constantly trying to reduce the amount of information that Zenless Zone Zero has available to the player. I don't understand why you keep doing that. Like in the back of my head, I want to say my usual, like it's a hypercarry thing, right? Like you're only focused on the hypercarry aspects, which historically has been true. But I felt like we were making progress with some of the changes that we've seen just in the last like 2 or 3 months alone. Some are up, some are down, but this is ridiculous. Even without the Miyabi thing, condensing categories is not the play. At some point, it's gonna get back to what it was before. You're gonna have only DPS in one category. You're gonna have supports in one category, and there's gonna be 2 categories or 3, but anomaly DPS is gonna change to stunners. Why is Dylan over here in support and she's still the stunner? Like separate them. It doesn't make sense. We go back over here, right? And you have it hybrid DPS or hybrid characters, support, and DPS. This makes sense in Wuthering Waves because there is no stunner. No one's doing the role of a stunner. I guess now with Lene and the new tune break system, they might develop more of that. But even then, it's not crucial. Everyone takes down the resonance bar, right? Or the tune bar, whatever it is. Now that they changed the name or whatever. Everyone takes that down in Wuthering Waves. This makes sense. So you're not going to have that dedicated role. The supports are going to be supports, and a hybrid character is going to be a character that does damage and also supports. This is absolutely valid. Zenless Zone Zero is not in this position at all. It's not here at all. The way that ZZZ is, everyone has a position to play. Bro, guys, I swear to y'all, I'm really trying to understand why even bother like reducing the amount of information. Is it too much? Do we feel like the general player base, and I'm asking you guys, right? Both chat and the YouTube comments for those that made it this far. Do we feel like Zenless has too much information that players can't keep up? Would that be a reason why so many players in the quote unquote casual player base don't want to learn the game beyond like ABC? They explained it on, it is on 1. What do you mean? Check the change log. We just read this. We already read this, but I mean, like, this doesn't answer my question because, again, contradicting, which seems to be a trend here. This is contradicting. Most of this is a very clear, straightforward, like, here, it's important for Prydwen to prioritize the average player. And so now I ask you a follow-up question. If the average player is playing quote unquote in-game, they're playing the most difficult content in the game, the most challenging content in the game, and the developers straight up came out and said, we're making more difficult content in the game. There's even a developer note or a dev stream that they had back in, damn, I forget, maybe it was June, but there was a dev stream that they had where they straight up said in their own words, if you cannot beat something that is the more difficult stages in the game, if you're struggling with the more difficult content that we start to produce, we highly encourage you to take advantage of our training facilities in game and other methods of teaching you better. This was the same dev stream where we learned about the new changes. You guys know how we had the Azrael named as the DP assist, but now the game calls it something else. I don't remember the actual name for it, but they took the tech that we as a community discovered, they renamed it, and now it's like a separate tutorial in the game. Shoulder to shoulder. Thank you, Tillian. Like, my whole point of that is, like, the developers are telling you, we're trying to make this content, like, we're trying to put it out there. There we go. Dicky says, I have a friend who's super casual, and he said if it was easier to understand builds and characters in game without having to look outside, it's just overloading him. He looks at Prydwen as just a quick glance, but he had to do a Kate surgery on his account, and he just has characters, no teams, because of Prydwen. And so I don't want to, like, I'm not gonna push blame on Prydwen like that entirely, right? But I do want to point out, which is, again, Prydwen, you guys know that when y'all DM me, I tell y'all the same shit, and I'm making these videos, I'm saying the same shit. I want you guys to be more, just more willing to put more information there. If you had fucking 4 categories or 5 categories, who gives a f? Like, doesn't Nikkei have like 6 categories or whatever? Like, who cares? If we're giving them this information as quote unquote prioritizing the average player at this current point in time, we have the history, like historically, statistically, we see this. Y'all have the data, you see the average results. Remember when we were looking at the Miyabi shit, right? When we went to, what was it, Deadly Assault? 25K on the Deadly Assault, right? Like that's the average score. You guys remember whenever we saw this the first time, and I said, yo, Miyabi's average score is 22K. That's not right. She shouldn't only be getting 22K. And I was like, that's not really an average score. Like, that's crazy, right? And then we went on to like, oh no, based on the data, this, that, and the third, this is what people are doing, blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool, valid. I understand now. This was the average. And now I understand the average score for most players is around this mark, right? That 23 to 25,000 score in Deadly Assault. If that's the case, wouldn't the obvious thing be to teach them how to get higher than 25K? Because if we go back to what I showed you guys earlier with the tweet, right? And I show y'all what I showed off. If the average player based off the Prydwen data is getting 25K on Miyabi versus favorable matchups, but we have evidence of Miyabi versus unfavorable matchups getting a higher score than 25K, but we can average this out to 25K, right? If she is also getting an average of 25K against unfavorable matchups, that means naturally players should be well equipped or adept enough to get a higher score than the 25K on favorable matchups. Mind you, right? Because I know someone's gonna be like, oh, well, R2 is a strong player. Da, da, da. He is. He's an amazing player using the hardest team in the game, the most free-to-play team in the game. There's like the fucking debates itself. That's why it bothers me so much about it. Not because like I'm trying to be a Miyabi shill. That's not, if this was Alice, I'd be doing the same shit, right? The problem is that, hold on, let me see, look. Oh, there, Vaughn just found it for us. Where'd you see that? It's on the changelog after a lot of internal debate. After a lot of internal debate, we have removed the secondary DPS column and instead converted it to anomaly DPS. Only 4 agents landed in the secondary DPS column, and recent agent releases made this more complicated to evaluate. Again, this is a problem of not delivering enough information for players to understand this. Not that there's 4 agents only, because I don't agree with this at all, but you're not delivering enough information as like the biggest EN website for the gacha games and whatnot. The base problem with most players, as we see with my channel, we see it from Kate, his account surgeries, even with AOG, when AOG's doing stuff for players, right? The primary issue, which we also just got this in the game to help them, because even the developers realize that players don't know how to properly build teams. That's step 1. And it's not even that they can't build a basic ABC, right? DPS, stunner, and support, which, to be fair, this tier list would teach them stunners are supports. So I guess I can replace a stunner with a support. They don't understand the concept of team building. That's a problem in itself. Then you go beyond that. How do you build the character? Then you get into that a little bit deeper. If I'm building a team that is not so basic, DPS stunner support. The team that I'm building is I'm utilizing my favorite characters, right? Because at the end of the day, so many players will say, well, I just want to play my favorite teams. I just want to play my favorite characters. You can do that if you know how to build the team and build the characters to work together. But if you don't, you can't do that. So when you see people having these arguments, quote unquote, about Miyabi, like when I mentioned the Harumasa things, and they weren't saying anything negative in the recent video, but they were just like, I didn't know that, right? Because they were new players. And so like, wait a minute, Miyabi and Harumasa like worked together back in the day. I didn't know that. What do you mean? Hold on. Whoa, Miyabi and Harumasa was a team? That sounds fire. How do I play that? They don't know. Every single character within their faction works with those characters. Miyabi and Harumasa are in the same faction, and some dumbass is gonna tell you they don't work together. Make it make sense. Yanagi and Harumasa work together, but somehow Miyabi and Harumasa wouldn't work together. That doesn't make sense. Every single character in every single faction works together. That is just developer 101 for whatever reason that they decide to do. I'm bringing this up to further explain, if you understand how these characters work with whatever character you're trying to build, you can play whatever team, within reason of course, that you're trying to play. And the problem here, Mockingbird might be the only one that does not work together. Yeah, Vivian and Hugo, you guys might actually be right on that one. That's the only one that doesn't work together. So I'll walk that 1 point back, Mockingbird with the exception. Teaching players more about the game in order for them to understand why something would be what it is, so that you don't have these silly arguments like Yidhari being better than Miyabi, which by association would mean she's also better than Yixuan and on par with Ye Wang, based off what the community is saying for whatever the is going on, right? But that's not true. Oh, Seed hard to play, Seed clunky, Seed no work. Only 4 characters have sub DPS roles. Mind you, all of the anomaly characters either fill in a main DPS or a sub DPS. Sometimes they just straight up a dual DPS. They're both main DPSs. That is anomaly. But because you've conditioned players to look at anomaly teams as only a hyper carry option, like with Alice, what I should see with Alice, which I do believe you guys have it on here, would be going into her teams and seeing something like Alice, Yuzu, and Vivian, or Alice, Yuzu, and Bernice, or Nagi, or whatever. Do you defense? These are from the data, not from you recommending this, right? This is from the data. Good. Miyabi, Alice, Yuzu, right? Alice, Bernice, Yuzu, Alice, Vivian, Astra. This is an anomaly team. So when you look at this, and if I were trying to build something with an anomaly team, right? And I had all these options that I'm looking at as to what does what, I need to understand, how do I play Alice, Vivian, and Astra? I don't have a stunner. So what's my goal? How do I get to my end game, right? Like, how do I win? How do I beat the boss or whatever I'm trying to fight? What's the matchup? How do I get that? How do I clear? Oh, I'm playing Alice, Vivian, and Yuzu. Well, this is different than Alice, Vivian, and Astra. These are not the same teams. I do not play these two teams the same way at all. So now I need to reassess how I play that team. Miyabi, Alice, and Astra versus Miyabi, Alice, and Yuzuha. 2 different teams. I do not play these teams the same way at all. Yixuan, Alice, and Lucia. This has to be bait. I'm not gonna knock it until I try it, but like, hey, if it works, right? Not the same team. How do I play that? The information not being available to them for them to understand, which isn't, I'm not putting all that blame on Prydwen. I do want to make that clear too. I'm not putting all the blame on Prydwen. What I'm saying specifically about Prydwen is that they are a very big catalyst or a very big benefactor in diminishing the amount of information that a player has available to them to learn about what's going on. As we saw in my own chat, and I'm sure you guys have seen it on Twitter and Discord, whatever, a lot of players come onto Prydwen, they admit this themselves. They come onto Prydwen, they look at the tier list, they see what characters wear, and then they base their decisions off of that. They are not clicking on the image of the character. They're not going into the profile of the character. They're not looking at the teams and synergy of the character. They go for who's placed where, how do I build them? That's it. They're not reading a 3,000 word guide on how to play the character and like the best teams, the routes, whatever. Mind you, Prydwen doesn't even have the best combos, rotations, routes, whatever it is, because it's too much information to be able to put on that anyway. And then it would change based on the team, because everyone's rotation isn't the same because the team changes that. We go back to the sub DPS category for just a moment, or like the conversation, and I'm assuming what they would have had was Orphe, Vivian, Nagi, and Bernice as the 4 characters that perform a sub DPS role. But after the introduction of Seed and Orphe, we know that's not the case. With the introduction of Orphe and Seed, you can play whatever the fuck you want if you know what you're doing. Even back in 1.4, you can make Harumasa a sub DPS. He's more of a burst DPS. I made that very clear in my guide for Harumasa and Miyabi, but he's more of a burst DPS still. Secondary DPS, right? Because you understand how to play that team, he fulfills the role of a sub DPS. Alice and Miyabi. One of them has to be a sub DPS or they're both on the field at the same time. Vivian, same shit. Piper and whatever the fuck else. Or Miyabi and Piper. Bernice and Piper, whatever, right? Grace. For the longest time, Grace was sitting in the main DPS category when she wasn't supposed to be. And even then, Grace can play main DPS. That's one of the key things about Anomaly. They fulfill both DPS roles perfectly fine. And again, with the introduction of Orphe and Seed, now we have that. Like, it's just, I don't know, man. And then the stunner and support thing, constantly saying that Chingy is fucking like, well, before she was tier 1 now, right? Tier 2 or tier 1.5, whatever it was. There's just so much info that's just not here. My issue isn't, guys, I know y'all in chat, obviously, you understand that, but when people watch this video, when they listen to me rant about this whole thing, my issue isn't the placements. Seldom give a fuck about the placements, right? Very often give a fuck about the, I gas it up for the video. It's funny, I'm on stream, I'm a great personality on stream. I'm just very good at going up and down, really easy. I don't care about the placements. It's the lack of information and then justifying the placements for XYZ reason on the website with the lack of information for the player to understand XYZ. It's bad. Again, the community, we've already accepted this point. Multiple people will come out of the, even in this, I guarantee you, even in this video, before they even get to this part, they wouldn't have even made it to this part. Multiple people, they're gonna leave comments talking about how they're casual or average. They don't care about whatever. They don't want to kill something, shouldn't be based off, you know, the top tier player or the top player, whatever, blah, 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 blah. You're gonna have multiple people come out and say, which we already see that with Miyabi, right? Oh, well, I have a Miyabi and, you know, she's perfectly fine and she was able to clear everything, no problem. I didn't even have to breathe and she could beat the game for me. But now you're telling me that I gotta think with my 3 brain cells? Bro, I can't do that. Miyabi's trash. Yidhari, however, bro, my Yidhari, all I gotta do is press 2 buttons and she beats everything in the game. My Yidhari is outperforming my Miyabi. By default, that makes Yidhari better than Miyabi, obviously. Who wouldn't think that, bro? You're so dumb. Bro, my Ishwin is outperforming my Alice on anomaly-based matchups because my Alice is only level 20, but I didn't mention that part. I didn't mention that I have no fucking idea, no clue what I'm doing with the team. I didn't mention that my builds are dog shit. I didn't mention the fact that my Yidhari has her best in slot premium team, and I'm still using mono ice with Miyabi, but I don't know how to rotate mono ice beyond the first stun. I have Yidhari's engine, but not Miyabi's. My Yidhari outperforms my... What are we doing? You're catering too, Fizz, thank you. You're catering too much to the average player. And again, Prydwen, I totally understand wanting to prioritize the average player. I'm not telling you don't do that. What I'm asking at this point, I really wish you guys would just treat Zenless like you treat the rest of the games. It just feels unfair at this point. Again, even if you ignore the Miyabi change, right? Like leave Miyabi in tier 0.5, whatever, y'all keep reducing the amount of information available in a game packed with fucking information. The player base, right? The one that you're trying to prioritize, the average player base, that same player base is already, and admittedly from their own mouths, not up to par with clearing in-game. They already struggle with clearing in-game without some form of assistance, an account surgery from Kate, whatever the case may be, right? Or, oh, I need a W engine. I have to get the signature W engine. Otherwise, I can't get my 20K. Man, I can't get 20K because I don't have Lucia. My Ishwin, she's not clearing. If only I had Lucia. Oh, bro, I lost a 50-50 on Dylan, so I can't clear. They're admitting to these problems. We see it every day. They don't know how to build teams properly. They can't function unless some creator, their favorite content creator, has to tell them what to do, has to go on their account and fix it without telling them what the actual issue is and to fix it later. That's why I don't hate account reviews, by the way, guys. But a big reason why you don't see me do them is because I refuse to go on your account and fix it for you unless you're gonna learn how to fix it. Like, I will teach you how to fix it. I'll sit there with you in a call, and multiple people can verify this in my own Discord. I will sit in Discord for like 5 hours to help you learn and make sure you understand whatever the fuck it is you're having an issue with. I'll show it to you on your account and my account, but I'm not gonna do it for you because you'll never learn that way. Teaching somebody how to build teams, super fucking easy. It's not complicated at all. You don't need a Bible's worth of information. I don't have to sit with you for 9 hours to teach you this information. You just need to understand the basics of what you're trying to do. Again, giving them that information, or rather in this case with Prydwen, reducing their ability to gain that information. I'm gonna say that one more time. What you're doing by condensing the categories, you're reducing their ability to learn and or gain that information for themselves, because the average player base takes things at face value and runs with it, right? Let's keep that in mind. On the floor, on the table, the average player They take things at face value and run with it. They're not gonna second guess. They're not gonna come back and question it. They're gonna take it and run. This is the key part, right? This is the funny part. The only time you will see the average player second guess or question or rebuttal to something is when the information conflicts with what they were told. How many times do you see in the community, X creator told me blank? Y creator said blank. Y creator wrong and stupid. X creator smart. I love X creator. He helped me so much. He got on my account and fixed it. He beat all of my Shiyu defense. I'm gonna come back next month. I love X creator. He tells it how it is. Y creator bad. He does not tell how it is. I'm confused. X creator, do my taxes. It just blows my fucking mind, guys. That's why I asked earlier, and a lot of you guys said no. I was like, is there so, and again, I'm asking chat or YouTube comments, do you feel like there is so much information in Zenless that you cannot absorb it all? Like you can't go from level 1 to level 2 knowledge wise because you feel like there's so much. And I'm asking you guys this because mind you, right? Y'all hear me say all the time, I hate math. From my own experience, from my own story. Math was super easy for me. All subjects were really in high school, super easy for me. It wasn't until I got to college where, mind you, I went to a school that wasn't the best of the best, okay? We made do what we could. It wasn't a super echelon or upper echelon school, okay? I wasn't getting the finest of teachings, sipping my tea, right? I didn't have all that. So when I got to college, I was blown away with all of the new experiences because everyone else has learned something different. It got to a point where they, the teacher or professor, expected me to know something that my school had never taught me because it was not required. So I had to learn. Because of my position and my advanced classes going through college, I'm expected to learn a certain thing, right? Or to know something so that I can learn the next step. The problem was there was so much that they thought I knew and expected me to know that I could not proceed to the next step because I didn't know it. So I had to take a separate class in order to learn all of the things that I needed to know while taking the other class at the same time. I hate math. So I'm asking you guys, is that a similar scenario to you with Zenless Zone Zero? And if that is the case, what is it that you're struggling with? What is it that makes you feel that way where there's so much information in the game, you can't proceed forward? You can't move on. You can't move on to the next step because you don't understand like whatever you're stuck on right now, whether that be team building, agent building, character development, rotations, combos, whatever. I just want to know, but I'm done with it. That's the end of that video. The next video that'll come out, which you guys might see or should see, will be the Shiyu defense video. It'll go hand in hand with this one. What I'm gonna go on to explain in this Shiyu defense video, just for anybody that made it to the end of this video and you wanna know what's happening in the next video. Shiyu defense recently changed. Big new update. A lot of you guys are gonna hate it, but you should love it. I'm gonna talk about why in this next video. I'm also going to address why, just like I went on this whole fucking rant, reducing the amount of information that a player can learn or has access to is bad. It does more harm to the player than good. This new Shiyu defense is going to, anyone that doesn't understand or have enough knowledge, this new Shiyu defense is going to kick your ass. You're not going to like the new Shiyu defense because you have the lack of knowledge. It's not because you lack the skill. It's not because you don't have the brand new fucking character. It's not because you don't have a signature W engine. It's because you don't have the fucking knowledge. I can't say my usual outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Smell you later. This will be a legendary snipe. This will be a legendary snipe. Legendary snipe. Bring it home. No!
I mean, you can run R5 Brimstone. It's not my